All right, look at that. Ashley, good afternoon. As everybody starts to jump in here, Maria Antoinette, Samuel, I love that.
Hello,
America, you're hiding behind a different
how
alias
are
today.
you?
She's in the car. How are you? Good, good. Patty, so good to see you guys. All right, I'll give this about a few more seconds. Genesis, welcome to the call. Call video, is that what we call these things? Some of you will notice I'm flying solo today. Yay for flying solo. My fearless leader, our fearless leader, is in Atlanta today. She's delivering. I know that she's preparing to deliver a pretty cool presentation to some of our youth in out there, anyways. And so she does that, and one of the coolest things that she gets to do. All right, I'll kick us off. It's 2:01. I know that we got as we get more and more in the room, they'll just start popping in. So here's kind of where we're at. You guys know that I like to start with this day in history because I can't help it. Fun thing, and it ties into some of the stuff that's happening in June. Some of you might know this that in 1865, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution was abolished. I'm sorry, was ratified, abolishing slavery. Some of the ratification of the 13th Amendment um, from 1865, although closely connected, is not the same or has nothing really to do with Juneteenth, even though it's in the same month. This amendment officially abolished slavery throughout the United States, and it was ratified actually in December 6th, 1865. So some of you are like, wait a minute. It was ratified in December 6th, 1865, and it legally ended slavery, but the enforcement took time to reach all the different parts of the country. Because you can imagine they didn't have Wi-Fi, they didn't have fax machines, they didn't have cell phones, and obviously it took a little while to get all that information. As a result of that, some of you are saying, well, Adrian, what does that have to do with real estate? Well, as you can imagine, guys, after the emancipation, many formerly enslaved sought to acquire land and property as a means of economic independence and security. And so this gave way, obviously, to a lot of the changes in the fair housing stuff that you guys see today, makes it equitable opportunities for home ownership. So, anyways, hope that was helpful or insightful. That's this day in history. So here we go, guys. I'm in the driver's seat today, so let's just start off with some basic data. Miami-Dade single-family homes. You guys know that we'll look at some basic numbers. I'm not going to spend a whole heck of a lot of time on this stuff today because I want to get to some juicy, good details and good info. But I just want you guys to just pay attention to there. What you're seeing there is the price decreases remain steady. They're sitting at 407. And so compared to the number of new inventory, it's still outpacing new inventory. Just keep your eye on the number of closed sales because what we're starting to see is week over week, even though it's not increasing, and some might say that's not cause for alarm or panic. At the height of your real estate selling season, we're starting to see that starting to come in slightly lower week in and week out. So again, just pay attention to that number, and we'll keep an eye on it for you as well. So in the Broward single family market, you saw 535 price decreases, and I think that end of month greatly improves the new inventory, right? So you saw new inventory at 359, but those price decreases, 535, greatly outweighing the number of new inventory. And again, that's something that we hadn't seen in a while. But if you see previous week, 618, you'll see a slight decline in that because again, as I had discussed with Natascha last week, that's either your sellers are getting to it and finally getting to the better price adjustments in order to move some of this inventory, or you guys are finally getting, and I say you guys, I mean the industry is getting much better at delivering that conversation. And again, same thing, pendings and closed down a little bit from last week. So just keep an eye on that slowdown. As we look at the Miami-Dade condo and townhome market, no crazy surprise there. The new inventory is finally starting to bring itself down. Over the last, I would say, almost 3 months, we have been reporting that the inventory in the Miami-Dade condo market has been skyrocketing. You guys have just seen an abundance of condos hitting the market, flooding the market, for lack of a better word. Price decreases 674. No crazy surprise there. And closed sales kept pace with last week. So again, good stuff. Broward condo and townhomes. No surprises, 686 price decreases. This is an area of our selling spaces that tends to react after, depending on what's going on. And so you guys have a significant number of price reductions in the townhome market. It's just catching up. And that's it. That's just kind of what you guys are looking at. We always want to make sure that we give you the latest and greatest on the trends. All right. So in front of you, you guys see it. For those of you who are driving, I'll kind of just read the headline because I think it's important to just slow this one down for a second. The headline reads this: swimming pools in the housing market, a cooling trend in premium, but still a hot commodity. So I think what's important to talk about this, you've got some charts and some analytical data, and you've heard us going through conversations for the last couple of weeks talking about how to talk to your seller about price improvement, modifying the price so that it can actually affect the sale. And we wanted to give you some ammunition on a slightly different component that you can absolutely take back. So this requires a little history. I know, history lesson. Here we go. Many of you remember that during the pandemic, buyer preferences had shifted big time to travel, increased space in homes, more rooms. And you can obviously, people were more focused on a quality of home life for obvious reasons. They were stuck at home more often. So, as a result, features like swimming pools became very desirable, and homes with them started selling for a healthy premium. Some of you even saw this desirability of the pool premium that hit record levels. And this is the picture I've got to be able to paint for you guys, where where before the pandemic you would look at a home with a pool, and I would just use an atypical quintessential Pembroke Pines pool because that's the area I know well. You would see a pool, it would be 20 something years old, and you might say, okay, that pool's worth 40, 50,000. You can't build one for less than this. That's the premium value for that. So the house's premium for having the pool was increased by that dollar amount if it had a pool. Easy math. When the pandemic showed up, those premiums started to skyrocket. So you would see people's reason for the desirability of the property to actually have it increase, which means they were paying more for that premium. And what I don't know happened is one of the data points that I was looking for is, or that Natascha was looking for is, hey, what other components you can take back to the seller instead of just saying, hey, we need to adjust the price because overall the price isn't sitting great. Your premium price for that is probably what might be able to be adjusted more appropriately. Here's the analytics. Here's all that data is showing you. It's telling you that the premium price for that pool has actually decreased by about 54%. Now, please do not misunderstand me or mishear me. I am not saying the value of the home has moved from where it once was to 54% of its value. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the premium that a consumer once was willing to pay for having that premium, in this particular conversation, the pool, that premium adjustment has now shifted back to about pre-pandemic levels. And so I had a wonderful conversation with Sabrina this afternoon, and I was very happy to hear that in your quintessential Broward markets, your price improvement premium for pools is sitting somewhere. And again, there's a range because all things are not equal in our business, can range anywhere between 50, 60 to upwards of 70. But you're not at the historic $100,000 premium marks. And all I'm offering you is an opportunity to go back to your pricing and make sure that you're not disparately increasing the value of the home. And I saw some of the chats already showing up, and you're absolutely right. It's commensurate to the value of the house. But all I'm stating is make sure that we're looking at the price premium for the pool and that you're looking at it correctly and you're just not overinflating the value of that pool just because the value of the house sustains it. Because don't forget, the age of the pool, condition of the pool, the deck, screen, all that plays in. And if you need help with that price, one of the best places to go for that is consult an appraiser so you can help get some of those formulas a little better. All right. Hope that helps. If nothing else, I know it's a pretty big picture we're trying to paint. I just wanted to give you some ammunition to go have better conversations with your sellers if you need to do some price improvements. All right, here we go. So cautionary tales. And so this one's short. It's a very simple story, but it was one that was worth noting. So here's the picture. About 3 years ago, an agent listed a property that had some issues. And when I say issues, it's just kind of, oops, sorry. Of course, I would be the one that screws up our PowerPoint. 1, 2, there we go. All right. Specifically talking about violations. So the property had violations with the city. The owner at the time was a little elderly and sick, and they were trying to sell the property. An investor who was very interested in the property goes under contract to purchase it. All good. Sounds good. Atypical real estate. However, Because of those violations, the seller, and because of their health and other issues, they were unable to clear them prior to closing. This caused the deal to fall apart and the contract died. I want to be very careful that I clarify that the contract died. It's not that it ended or that they released and canceled. It died, which means it had a date, it had a finality, and it died. Things got complicated. The buyer, feeling frustrated and upset, decided to take measures or matters into their own hands. And without informing anyone, they placed a special interest lien on the property. Basically, it's a claim that says they still have an interest in that property. So imagine this. It's not a big deal. It happens. The seller didn't even know about the lien, and unfortunately, the seller ends up passing away at some point in the future. Later, the seller's daughter decides to sell the property herself, and when they found the new buyer and went under contract, they discovered that previous lien just at about the time that the sale was about to close. Now the buyer with the lien refused to release it, claiming that they still had interest in the property. This causes huge delays, a ton of extra work, and our agent had to step in and to help kind of work this stuff out. So what's the whole point of this conversation is, honestly, it's not so much the what you can do if someone goes behind everybody's back and places a special interest lien. It's highly unlikely. It doesn't happen very often, and I would almost argue that that buyer was working in cahoots with someone at a much higher level to pass through a lien that probably, and in most cases, would never really pass. There's no real contract. There's no real interest left in the property. And so that aside, here's the better lesson, right? It's just be aware of existing issues like city liens, violations, municipality liens. Don't assume them. Always ask the questions. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, are you aware of them? Make sure that at some point that we get title involved early so that they can help us uncover those. And if we find them, let's do our best to address them while under the premise of contract. There's solutions. I can help you with those. Greg can help you with those. There's a ton of answers that we can help maneuver those. I'd rather we deal with them then and find out surprises. And again, this particular scenario, not necessarily avoidable, but there's a lesson to be had there. And so I hope that this was a little helpful. And just, hey, we got to take some of this information. We get it. It's not always the best scenario, and let's learn from it. All right, switching gears because we're a little right just at our halfway mark. Nikki, do we have Miguel on the line? I feel like a talk show host over the radio.
Can you hear me?
There he is. All right, Mr. Maria, first and foremost, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. I know that you and I have had some conversations around this, so kind of let me just kind of set the stage. Miguel, you, like many listing agents on the call, have been exploring or looking for innovative ways to move properties that I would say have been having some challenges in gaining interest, right? Without getting overly complicated. You got inventory, some of it's moving, some of it's not. And you're looking for some of those solutions. And then one tool you particularly have used and looked into was bidthisproperty.com. Is that correct?
Correct.
Perfect. And so I can finish the summary here. It's a site that offers an online auction platform specifically designed to help the seller, you and the seller, get more exposure, faster results on the properties, especially for those that are a little more difficult to move. So the floor is yours, my friend. You and I were to just have a general chat. Talk to me a little bit about this site. What is it? How does it work? And we'll go from there.
Okay, so a little plug. I came across this property by attending Bold. So, you go to Bold wanting to learn about some things, and then you get some new tools and new ideas, right? So I always tell people, hey, you guys have to go to training, you guys have to travel, you guys have to invest in education, because you never know one little thing could change your business, right? So that's one.
Okay.
I wasn't paid to say this, by the way, and I'm not getting any.
I was just gonna preface by saying I want to make sure everybody knows I did not pay Miguel to plug Bold, but I appreciate you sharing that. Seriously, I think that's important.
So absolutely. I mean, I don't know if I would have known about it if I wouldn't be there, right? It's about being in the right place at the right time. Anyway, so it's just another tool We need as many tools as we possibly can in this type of environment and this type of market that we have. We never know which particular tool is gonna work for the situation or the client that we have in.
Okay.
We are running on Bid This Property right now 3 different listings.
Okay.
One of them, it's an auction that already ended. To give you the short version, property's in pretty bad shape. The owner wanted one price. I marketed through my whole database. I marketed through investors, and the prices were much lower than what he wanted.
Understood.
We put it on Bid This Property, and I'm getting him like 25% much. I mean, 20% higher of what his intention was to receive for the property. So it's a win-win for several reasons. Number one, you create frenzy. So a lot of buyers, typically when people go into an auction, they think that it's a foreclosure, even though it might not be.
Sure.
They get their what's it called, the endorphins or whatever,
FOMO, Miguel. FOMO.
and then they start beating each other up. So that
Okay.
helps. In addition to that, I was able to negotiate a good deal with the owner, because one of the things, if you guys have any experience with any auction sites, any auction site that you go, they're going to charge a buyer's premium, meaning your buyers win the bid. Let's call it 100,000. There is a fee added to that price. And most of those, can I say numbers or no? No, stay out of numbers.
Yeah, no, let's just stick with that. But let me,
Okay.
you're at a good spot. Let me paint some pictures here, because I want to make sure that everybody understands what we're talking about. So, Miguel, let me make sure that I get this right. So we've got property that's not moving, and for any number of reasons, the picture you painted, and I like it because I'll just use its example. The property wasn't in the greatest condition, right? The seller wanted this. The market basically reacted to your listing, traditional listing, and said, he might want this, but this is where we're really willing to offer. And you got a few offers well below what the seller was interested in. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Okay. Fast forward, you say to the seller some crazy notion. You say, hey, look, I'm going to try something completely off the wall. I want you to allow me to list this property on bidthisproperty.com. I'm actually going to list it, and I think the percentage is somewhere around 30% below what the market would likely sell the property. Is that a fair statement too?
That's what they recommend. Yes.
So the recommendation is, hey, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, hear me out on this crazy idea. I know you already don't want to do a price reduction, and you're likely already upset with me or don't like the idea. Let me put it on this auction site. I'm going to list it for 30% below what the market would likely give you. Here's the coolest part. You're in control. You absolutely have the right to say yes and maneuver and negotiate a deal when one comes up, or in this case, when multiples show up, and you're not obligated to take that offer. I love that concept, right? Because it keeps the seller in the driver's seat. Fine. And what I'm
That is
hearing
correct.
you say is that the auction style and the FOMO, the whole process, because they're getting a good deal, or at least they're starting off at a good deal, that FOMO, that bidding, that adrenaline that creates that rush, those offers started to bid themselves up organically. And you guys ended up at where almost 15%, almost 20%, where the seller's bottom line would have started. Is that about right?
Yeah. It might be a little off on the numbers. I think it's higher, 20,
Okay,
somewhere around 20. But the whole point is that we're gonna end up higher than what he wanted, so he's gonna need more money on his pocket.
perfect. And the last
While
part of what, go
go ahead,
ahead, you
sorry,
were
go
saying.
ahead.
No, and the
While
last part
not
of that I think is
while not
important is
paying
you
a
mentioned,
buyer's compensation.
perfect. Because what I want, that's the part that I want to make sure that we're crystal clear on, because it is that important. A traditional auction house, guys, this isn't new. When the markets start doing these fun things, it's cyclical. It just came back. And that's not a jab at the auction houses. That's the way they operate. In order for them to be profitable, they charge the buyer, most of them charge the buyer a 5% premium. You guys are
Yeah.
pretty good at math. If you're selling a $500,000 home, a 5% premium being charged to the buyer, that's money. So the illusion of what I'm saving might not be nearly as much as they thought it was. The advantage, if I understand the numbers with Bid This property, Miguel, you correct me if I'm wrong, it's that they charge is it a 3% premium to the buyer?
It's at 3 instead of 5, and a portion of it goes to the buyer's agent. On the other ones that you mentioned, they charge a 5%, and it doesn't go to the buyer's agent.
Understood. So where they help the seller understand, hey, a cooperative compensation is important. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're not the one that's going to pay that. Let's list it here. We'll charge the buyer a 3% premium. 2.5% of that premium pays the cooperative compensation. The 0.5% is what pays what I'm going to assume the cost for marketing, et cetera, for the platform.
Correct.
And more importantly, Miguel, all this to summarize, is it working?
Well, we had a pretty successful bidding on that one that we just ended.
Okay.
There is one that is ongoing right now that we're already at the halfway mark, so we're really doing good on that one. And there is one that just started that particularly is the first time I signed a listing agreement with 0%, with no compensation to the buyer's agent.
Understood.
So
Okay.
we listed it here, we explained it to her. She got a little confused, and I told her, don't worry, trust me, numbers are numbers. As long as I net you more money down the road, when I print out who the winner bid is,
Absolutely.
how much the buyer's premium was, and all of that, I'm going to net you more money this way. And so far, she's happy. And I mean, the auctions don't go crazy at the beginning. They're going to be super slow the first day, 2 days. But on the last couple of days, the last day, the last 2 hours is where everything start ramping up.
Perfect. And as we wind down our conversation together, Miguel, I think it's worth noting this last piece. This isn't a one size fits all solution. I believe that. I don't believe that this is hey, everybody, hear what I'm saying. Go take every property you have and go put it on bidthisproperty.com. If I was asking you, Miguel, is there a recipe for what type of property fits this solution? What would you say?
Honestly, it's difficult. It's like you said, there's no one size fits all. Ultimately,
Okay.
you have to read your client and see what the necessities of that particular client is. One of them might be the no compensation to the buyer's agent, but then at the same time, the client has to be in favor of listing the property at a much lower price, and understanding that they still have the right to cancel, counter, or accept any offer. So I think it's, instead of going predisposed, you have to go with an open-minded, and just remember that it's an additional tool that you have on your toolbox. That un as bajo la manga. How do you say, like an ace on their sleeve, or
an ace up your sleeve?
that thing, right? That you have. That if you don't have to use it, you don't use it. But if you're gonna lose a listing and you're gonna lose an opportunity, this might be the difference between you making 10 grand, 12, 15, 20 grand, depending on your average sale price, and not making a penny.
Miguel, flip side, and I'll leave it on that note because I think you said it best, is that if you guys are out there proactively prospecting opportunities, your expireds and your expired opportunities, this probably already sets the stage for you. They've already not felt great about the process. They've already had their feelings about how that wasn't quite the right price. The market basically rejected your initial price. Can I offer you, I have something I'd love to offer you that's completely different that no one else is doing, and now you show up as a different agent with an opportunity to speak to an expired in a way that you haven't before. I think that was worth mentioning. Awesome. I did see one quick question that showed up in the chat. You're absolutely right. We need to get something in writing from the seller. Here's the cool part. That website itself has basically the additional terms language for your listing agreement. You basically take your atypical listing agreement, you insert a clause at the bottom that we've verified, we've looked at together, and you will just always, if you have any questions, always run it by me. I'm happy to answer that.
There is a class that you have to take, and you have to register with them. I think it was $99, but because you did it through Bull, they will reimburse me on the first deal. Another good thing about going to these events.
There you go.
So basically, that's free. But yeah, you can check out the web. Well, Adrian, I passed on the information. I connected
Yes.
you with her, right? So
We did.
yeah, I'm sure the
Beautiful,
office
lovely
can
connection, and then bigthisproperty.com. We may
yeah.
very well have her on in the future as this grabs more traction. But I wanted this opportunity to show up. I didn't want to have to wait for setting up more meetings. I wanted our agents to hear it. There is another tool, and that it works, and that it's actually, that it's doing what it needs to do. So with that said, guys, we are at 2:26. I do hope and pray that this was helpful. I know it's raining out there for all of you on the road. Stay safe. For everybody else, we'll see you on the next one, guys. Thanks so much. Be safe out there. We'll see you soon. Miguel, thank you again.
You're welcome. Anytime. Bye.
Bye.